All right, starting from the other end, Chief Stefan.
The Citizen Police Academy that was scheduled to start last week, we had to take a delay on because we had some issues with some scheduling and also participation. So we're going to get it going back again in the fall.
Would you mind just taking 2 minutes because we haven't had a great response for this situation? We're on TV right now. Why not tell the audience what the Police Academy is all about?
The Citizens Police Academy creates an opportunity for folks living in the city of Prospect Heights to interact within the police department and to see what we do on a daily basis. It allows them to meet their officers, and each of the officers that is responsible for certain disciplines such as law, criminal law, investigations, forensic technology. The officers with those specialties will actually walk people through a session of training, and that'll be followed with a hands-on event. And it's a lot of fun. And people that graduate from the Citizen Police Academy, a lot of them generally go on to become volunteers with us. Isn't that right, Alderman Dolick?
That's correct. I participated about 5 years ago, and it's a great opportunity and an opportunity to get involved with the city, begin volunteering. The Youth Outreach Program is a great program, so I have nothing but great things to say about it.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Alderman, go ahead. You have something else, Chief?
No, sir, just thank you.
All right, thank you. Alderman Ludwigson?
Yes, a few things. First, there was a complaint about the new church and some garbage that was in the water. I went there the next day. I brought this up. Joe knows about it. I think our city engineer was out there. Went out there that morning at 6:30, took a bunch of pictures, and could not figure out what was in question. So Joe had the engineer go out and assess it, and I guess it's going to meet with the person who called it in to go over the outflow and what she feels might be wrong with it. I didn't see anything that was wrong with it, but I'm sure we'll get some further report from the city engineer in the future. The second thing is I had somebody call me about wanting a crosswalk on a side street over Willow Road. I think it was at Lancaster. Tried to get back with them. I was out of town, have not been able to make contact with them again, but just so that staff knows to be prepared that this is going to be a request, and we've had these requests before, and on some more busier intersections, and it's really not up to us to put these crosswalks in. We don't have the authority to do it because it's a county street, and I think maybe we could prepare just a memo on that might go to this citizen who was asking about it as to why we can't do that. Third item is today we do not have our city attorney here. 2:08 today we received an email saying that due to two aldermen not being here and what was considered a light agenda, that the city attorney would not be here in a cost-saving measure, I guess. We've been down this road before. The city attorney's retainer includes him coming to our meetings. There are some pretty hefty things on what we're calling this workshop meeting. I don't know why he is not here. It's a requirement by city code that the attorney be here, so to ask him not to be here, to me, is a direct, blatant violation of city code. We've discussed this before. I thought it was worked out. I don't know why this continues to come up. Mike is no longer our attorney, so it's not a personality conflict between the mayor and our city attorney anymore. And since it is part of our retainer, he should be here in case we have questions. As we heard at the very beginning of the meeting here, if we didn't have our budget meeting correctly done in a way that the deputy clerk stated that we should, and if something went wrong with that, we wouldn't have had our correct meeting in place in order to pass the budget next meeting. So it's important that he's here. And then the last thing is, I understand that there is a establishment that was granted a one-day, 4 o'clock license on St. Patrick's Day, which I scrubbed the code, I can't find where that's allowed. It's not an event that you can have a special license for to go to. It is, that's a classification of license. I know the mayor's pushing for additional 4 AM licenses, but you can't just grant them like that. It's not allowed. And I asked the city administrator to look into it with the city attorney as to what can be done about that, why we're doing that, why we're just granting these things out. There was an incident that took place at that night, at that location, from what I understand, and it was not very favorable to the reputation of the city, from what I understand. So I'm going to ask that we look into that a little more deeply, not only the issuance of the license, but what went on there at that night. That's it. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
All right, thank you. Alderman Dolick?
I have no report, thank you.
Alderman Rosenthal?
Only that, and it is in the calendar, the Strategic Directions Committee will be meeting next week.
What day? Is that a Thursday?
Thursday, yes, I'm
Yes.
sorry.
Here at City Hall?
Yeah, City
Approximately what
Hall,
time?
in the same locale.
Okay, approximately what time?
7 o'clock. Or no, we moved it up, didn't we, Joe?
6.
6 o'clock.
p.m.
6
Yeah.
o'clock.
And I'll be serving sandwiches
All right.
on me.
And you?
Yeah.
Well, thank you. Karen Schulteis?
Yes,
Deputy Clerk?
thanks. Anyone who got a statement of economic interest form from the county has to fill it out before May 1st. And also, the mayor's breakfast is April 21st, and I'm still looking for anybody who may not have gotten back to me yet, or if there are a department head getting back on who in their department will be attending. Thanks.
All right, thank you. Well, I'll take it for a moment. In particular, the question about issuing a one-day license. We've been issuing licenses for years to St. Al's, to the Hilton, to the Players Pub for the big race. It's been going on for years, so I don't quite understand what the difficulty is, but I agree that the city ordinance should be checked. And Joe, if you would go ahead and do that with our attorney, that would be great. One other thing, water for St. Al's, Dan, I've gotten several phone calls, even relatives of council members have called me to ask why they don't have water yet. They have the money, according to the church itself. They're willing to pay it. They had engineering studies, and obviously there's some things missing. We're not delaying the action, but what exactly is happening?
That is correct. Staff has been meeting with the facilities manager for the church regarding the water. They have submitted a preliminary plan. However, there was some conflicts in that plan in terms of sizing calculations to the size of the meter and backflow preventer we need. Once we get that information, confirm it with Public Works and our city engineer, it would be no problem, go forward. At that time, once we determine the actual sizes needed, then we can order the right equipment so that the installation can take place.
Time-wise?
Waiting on the data from the church. So I will be talking with Mark Roscoe tomorrow at our staff meeting and double checking with the facilities manager for the church tomorrow afternoon.
Well, the schools there and the church itself, et cetera, are very anxious to get water. The approval has been made. They're concerned because a pastor is leaving in June, and a new pastor may not very well understand everything that's gone before and would delay it some more, and the kids would come back to school and there still won't be any water. So is there any way we can hasten things along by reminding people what they haven't done yet?
I spoke with the facilities manager last Thursday and he went through these items again, so I will follow up again tomorrow. But we're waiting on information from the church at this time.
Okay, we don't want the church against us.
Nope, not at all.
That would be a bad move. So, or the parishioners in any case. Good, so, Joe, what do you?
No report, sir, thank you.
All right. Wendy?
I was just going to ditto my deputy clerk about the mayor's breakfast on April 21st at the 8:30 a.m. at the Hilton Chicago Northwest, which is also located in Prospect Heights. Also wanted to ask Mr. Ludwigson if he could show me where in the city code it says that an attorney has to be present at a workshop city council meeting, because I don't think I've seen that in the code.
Well, we don't have to have our
Absolutely, I
alderman
will.
show us. We will have the attorney tell us.
That's fine.
That's where we're at right now. We've agreed on that.
Okay.
All right.
He can show us now, but he's not here to show us. so.
It's
We
hiding.
went through this before, Nick. I know
No, we did not.
We did not? Okay.
We did
I'll
not.
have to
We got
reform.
into arguments about the previous attorney wasting our time, charging us a lot of money, and for unnecessary participation. However, if you are right, then we'll have to do what the ordinance says or change it.
We've done this before. I sent you the email of the code and everything else. I'll resend the email to you again.
Okay, I'd like
There's
to
no
see it.
problem. I'll actually read it into the minutes of the next, into the next meeting, so it becomes part of the minutes.
All right, good. I would also like you to write a synopsis of your, two things. One, I'd like to see in writing from you, why or when is there no one-day liquor license allowed to be given?
No, I'm sorry. I probably said it wrong, Nick, so I'll apologize ahead of time. You misunderstood me when I said one day. I said one days are awesome. The church has them for their events, whether it
Right.
be Oktoberfest,
Right.
whatever events they have. Summerfest has it. Those are one day, like, they're great. That we have to have those. It's a community service to do that. What I'm saying is when you create a whole new, or when you authorize somebody to move into a category of a whole new license of a 4 AM for one day, that is granting something they weren't given. You know, it's like
I never did that, by the way, so I don't
Didn't?
know what you're referring to.
the St. Patrick's Day. You didn't authorize a late
For who?
for players.
For players, it was one-day license. I probably did. I don't remember that I did. But certainly that won't happen if there's a problem with it, even if there is no rule against it.
It was a one day, 4 o'clock.
Yeah.
And maybe you were just confused on the, you know, some holidays you're allowed to extend the time during the week, like Thanksgiving, Christmas. If certain days fall on a holiday, you're allowed to extend the latest hours of what they have, but you can't just tell somebody if they have a 3 o'clock that they now have a 4 o'clock, or if they have a midnight, now they have a 4 o'clock. That's not part of that.
I know they put up a sign against, Dan, I don't think they asked for a permit for a large sign in front of their front door. That was taken down immediately, and that's the only relationship I have to what you're talking about. But I do want to ask why you think I furthered the thought that we would have 4 AM licenses issued. I've never said that, I never will. The council, after I can make a proposal, I'm not in favor of 4 o'clock licenses. So let's get the record straight. But if someone comes here to apply, we have to let them apply. That's not a bad situation. You'd want, if you had an event and you wanted a one day or you wanted a 4 o'clock because that's when your customers, most of your customers come in, that's why you come here. I'm not too sure what the process after that is, but the council really runs this place. I don't. And all I can say is that one-day license, if it was issued, if I issued it, I'm not sorry. It is what it is. I didn't really focus on it. But I also suspect it was discussed in council here. But if it wasn't, I understand. So I'm not in favor of 4 o'clock licenses. What does it do for the city? That's what I'm in favor of. If it produces more income, that's fine. If it produces
But
more,
when you say that's fine, what do you, I'm confused by your position on it, because if you say you're not in favor of more of them, but if it produced more income, that's fine. What does that mean? I don't.
Well, that means that every time you complain we're going broke,
No,
I look for a
We're
place.
talking about whether there should be more licenses. If you say you're not in favor of them, and then you say if there's more revenue, that's fine. I just want to know what that means.
Well, the reason they presented it, what did they present it for? Because they want to have, nude birthday parties on 3 o'clock in the morning? No, if there's a reason for it, they stated, some of these people have stated they're going broke and they need extra revenue. You always mention how we're going broke and we need extra revenue. If there's a rule against it, I sure don't want to break that rule. And everything gets voted here anyway.
Right, but the part about voting, I get it, you're absolutely right, you don't decide it, but on Wednesday, when the agenda came out, that what's on our agenda today for the second reading of these 4 AM licenses, it was Wednesday when we got the first agenda, was the very, very first time that we heard about it. Now, granted, you're gonna say, and I'm just gonna preempt you by what you're gonna say, you just got the emails. So I find it hard to believe that we as councilmen, council people, have a hard time putting things on the agenda or doing things or whatever, yet somebody can send you an email saying, I want a 4 o'clock license, which you know is controversial. We've talked about that many times in these meetings. And then that next meeting, before the ink is dry on the printed out email, it's on the agenda for our Monday meeting. With not even a cover letter. We'll have more explanation about why we picked the color of our Christmas lights on Milwaukee Avenue. We'll have a longer detailed memo on that and not even have a cover letter on the ordinance, or not even an ordinance, coming forward about wanting to have these 2 4 AM licenses. It's just, I know you say you're against it, but I think that's only because we're on TV here. And if you were against it, you would have told them you weren't in favor of it and wouldn't have brought it up.
Said it right here in council, I'm not in favor of a 4 o'clock license.
Okay.
Review the minutes. I don't think you read those.
Well, I don't go down that road of reading stuff, Nick, because you'll lose that war. Why would you put that on, why would you put that on the agenda?
I think it's our job, if someone comes to us and says, I'd like to apply for this, it's here, right here, here's your form. Why wouldn't I do that?
So for now,
So selectively,
so anytime I have somebody that wants something, I just have to ask them to send you an email.
Yeah.
And you'll put it on not only for just discussion in a workshop, I don't know why we have workshops, because that's where we would discuss such a big change like this. But if somebody sends you an email and they want to do something, you're gonna have staff write an ordinance and move forward with it. Not even
I
discussion.
didn't have anybody write an ordinance, but the people were here last meeting.
How,
They already discussed it with council. I said, and you can
I know.
look it up, that I'm not in favor of.
I know the I'm just a bill thing was probably out before cartoons that you used to watch, but in order for something to be on our agenda to pass, it has to be an ordinance. An ordinance was written in order to allow these 4 o'clock licenses. Somebody, staff just does not pull that out of their head to say they want to do that on their own
All
without
right,
getting.
how would
direction.
it have changed things?
I'm not saying it would change things. I'm just saying you can't say you're against it, yet you're pushing them forward, and you put them on the agenda and have ordinances written. I mean, just be consistent, that's all I ask. I don't mind if you like
I've
them
been
and
here
you
7
want them.
years, pretty consistent.
If you
Brought
want
in
them.
more business than the city ever seen
See
in their
what?
lifetime.
Say again?
I said I've brought in more business than the city has ever seen in in our lifetime. I've been here 36 years also. I know you're 5th generation and you have different opinions about different things, and that's your prerogative. That's why you sit here.
Right, but we're not talking about that. We're talking about how things get on the agenda. And now that I understand it, and it's been discussed in this meeting, it will probably, hopefully, be part of the minutes, that if anybody in town wants something proposed or passed, they just have to send you an email and we'll put it on the agenda.
That's fine.
I got the rules of engagement now. I understand it.
That's fine.
So the public should know.
Whatever
all you
you
have to
do,
do.
whatever you think. And the public watched the whole meeting about the whole same issue just, 14 days ago? So this is not some big hit. By the way, talking about that, I've removed item 18-11, the alderman for one of the, God, you know, Pat, that's totally incorrect, because Laura's been talking to me for at least 6 weeks about this whole issue. She's the alderman for Players Pub area.
Right, because I talked to her too, she said he came to her with it and asked her about it, so that's why.
I did ask her about it. I said, what's your feeling? I would do that to you. So the point of the story is, we have 2 aldermen missing tonight, and I don't think we want to take a vote with 3 aldermen here, especially when one of the aldermen is the alderman of one of the applicants. So I'm removing 1811 for further discussion at the next meeting. So now you've had a heads up, and it wasn't the last minute. That's it.
Do we need a motion to table then to the next meeting?
Well, we can do that, sure. It's not going to be wrong. It may not be necessary, but it's not going to be wrong.
So
that-
move.
We have a second to
Second.
remove the item?
No, to table.
I'm sorry, to table the item till the next meeting? Right now, it's under a first reading anyway, so there's nothing really to vote on.
No, it's second reading.
Okay, sorry.
Well, it's lower board.
So that's especially why I don't think it should be on here without 2 aldermen present. Someone asked that question earlier today.
Without 2 aldermen present?
Well, there's 2 aldermen out here. How would you like to have your issue brought through 2 of
I
the,
watched that same meeting and she was adamantly opposed to it, so I don't know
who?
what you're saying. Laura,
Or,
I have had long conversations with her, and that's probably a mischaracterization. What she wanted to do was wait, and I agreed with her, and I agree with her tonight. We weren't going to even do anything about players. There is a question about the tap house, but they should be treated like anybody else. So I'm taking both the issues off and tabling.
call for the question.
Amen. Let's hear it. Roll
what's the
call.
question?
Table.
Table it.
There's no vote on the table.
All right.
It's just a first and a second. That's all there is. If our attorney was here, he'd tell you.
It's a second reading, though.
He tabled it. I mean, you tabled it. He didn't table it. Tabling only requires a first and a second.
Okay,
All right. so
unless somebody
We have-
objects to
we
it.
have-
So there's a motion on the
Oh,
table
There
to,
can be an objection.
We
to
can
the table.
vote. We can vote.
I don't care.
Yeah, let's vote
That's why
on
I
it.
said it can't be wrong.
It can't be wrong. Let's vote on
Roll call, please.
Alderman Rosenthal,
Aye.
Alderman Ludwigson,
it. No.
Alderman Zolik,
Aye.
You sound like a Dolly Boley down there.
So can 2 people approve that?
Sure. I'm
Sure.
I'm on the council too, so. You may remember that. That
I
was-
remember that, but I know that, never mind. You're absolutely right, but
Don't you think we should have the ward alderman be here for that kind of situation?
I have no problem with it. We can
Then why
vote it
would you
down
vote
then.
no?
We can vote it down then, that's fine.
Is this just being ornery or what?
No, it's just, it was on the agenda, you pulled it, we can move on, that's
Yeah,
fine.
yeah, that's my whole point. I pointed it long before you wrote me anything.
All right.
Under new business, Joe?
Well, actually, we should go back to, we finished the reports?
Oh, I'm sorry.
no.
Consent
Sorry, we
agenda.
got into a little diatribe.
It's all right.
Go ahead.
Reports?
I think,
Okay.
sorry, then Mr.
Um,
Pearson.
Real quickly, this evening, wanted to make an announcement that staff has been informed that Rockies at Milwaukee Plaza is now open for lunch. They have, used to wait until 3 o'clock to be able to enjoy the establishment. A couple weeks ago, they started opening at 11 for lunch service. Tonight, one of the items on consent agenda is the resolution approving the Thornton's Prospect Heights final plat of re-subdivision. I wanted to let the council know that Mr. Drew Zazowski from Thornton's is here. If you would give him a chance at that time to update us on the status of the Thornton's project. He's here. If you have any questions. And that should be all for this evening.
All right, moving on.
No report. Public Works, we're doing a lot of spring stormwater cleaning. You'll see the trucks out, the guys out working. For residents, your culverts and your swales in front of your house, if you can, make sure you clear debris, the fall leaves out of them. We want to make sure they all flow well. On the same stormwater topic, Levee 37, which is all on the east side, we're having a lot of pump work done this week. So we're getting all set for our spring rains and making sure it works properly. The pumps are going to be maintained, oil changed, all that stuff. So that's going to be a lot of work there this week. Also, we have a job posting for seasonal employees for Public Works to work, cut grass, do landscaping work. See our website or our Facebook page. All the information's on there. Don't delay. If you know a college kid who's back looking for something to do this summer, we could use them. And as you can tell, we're excited about spring in Public Works. Polishing the city up, getting rid of all the salt-stained debris, and making the city look nice. So we look forward to the next couple months. Thank you.
Great.
Mark, if I could ask, did you mention how much you're paying for this service?
Yes, sir, and all the information's on the website.
Well,
with-
give me a clue. How much?
It's $11 an hour, 40 hours a week, guaranteed a 40-hour week for roughly about 10 or 11 weeks. And the starting date and ending date are negotiable to we can work with a college student to make sure it fits their schedule too.
All right, thank you.
You're welcome.
Moving on.
Finance Department, no report. Have a couple items on the agenda later this evening.
Could you report that the warehouse, the storage operation is going well and we're getting paid that 1.5% that we all wanted to have because we could have gotten a auto parts store there?
Mayor, in checking the revenue this afternoon, the revenue is coming in on a monthly basis, and it seems to be improving each and every month.
As they fill up, because their gross income will increase, and so will our take. Good, thank you. Where are we, Joe?
Brings us to the consent agenda. These are items of routine nature, and information has been provided to council. 9A is staff memo and resolution approving the Thornton's Prospect Heights final plat of re-subdivision. 10B is staff memo and resolution providing for council direction authorization for interfund transfers as discussed at the budget meetings. And item 9C, this is first reading, so this wouldn't be approved, but it is introductory. This is the ordinance approving the official zoning map for the city of Prospect Heights. No changes, and it's an annual requirement by law.
Mr. Mayor, I'd just like to comment
sir.
on C. I don't want to pull it out, but I know I asked this last time, and I always, it's been a year and I forgot to follow up with it. There's a section of Wheeling Road, or actually Wolf Road, just north of Palatine. It's a big detention basin, an engineered detention basin that showed to be in Prospect Heights. I don't think it's in our town, but if it is, it worries me because it's an expensive thing to probably replace or maintain. I don't know if we could check on that, or if we did last time. I think that might be Dan. You know which area I'm talking about?
Yes, I do, and I will double check with the city engineer tomorrow. And if it is, we'll get that corrected prior to the next meeting.
Thank you.
All right, maybe just one more thing, Dan, on Plaza Drive, what's happening there?
This council will be receiving an informational memo from me this week. As you know, we did enforcement actions with the owners of the north half of the road and with the owners of Pabcor, Pewaukee Plaza, because all our data indicated and records showed that it was still part of their parcel. After research by our attorneys, it has been determined that the Plaza Drive is not owned by Pabcor, but in 1982, the property owner of the mall at that time deeded that portion of Plaza Drive to the city. I did verify that I found a resolution in our ordinance, in our records, and then that changes the dynamic of enforcement going forward. As I have all the details, cost estimates, and procedural steps in order, this council will be getting a memo to that regard so that we can make appropriate plans should we need to amend our capital budgets or find another source for funding of that road repair. Thank you.
Dan, how soon can you get that email or memo out? Because Alderman Messer, I think, would be keenly interested in that.
Correct.
Also, Alderman Williamson.
I have spoke with Alderman Messer, she checks regularly with me. She is aware of the changes, however, she doesn't know the impacts, but I should have that out by Wednesday.
But she knows that
Yes,
it isn't owned by PACCOR.
correct.
All right. Joe?
To go back to the consent agenda, is there a motion to approve this item?
So move.
And
Second. Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Which brings us to old business 10A. We've already had a motion to table that. Item 11A, this is an item from Alderman Rosenthal, discussion of Hillcrest Lake and Slough and possible ways to enhance public awareness, interest, and consideration of assignment of this task to the Natural Resources Commission. Alderman Rosenthal has presented tonight, it's on the dais, of a preliminary draft of ideas for this, and he's also had conversations with the Natural Resources Commission. So Larry, if you don't mind, if you could...
Mayor, if I might, I would like to make a motion to table issues 11A, B, C, and D, just due to the fact that we do not have legal counsel present. And oftentimes, we do ask for legal clarification on some of these items. So I would make that motion to table those issues 11A, B,
Which
C,
ones
and D.
again? Because some are first readings and don't need to be tabled. We're not going to vote.
I understand that, but if we go through them, that means that they would be up for a vote at the next meeting. And I would like the opportunity to be able to discuss them with legal counsel present before that.
Okay, fine, thank you.
It's just a request. If other members of the council feel different, that's fine.
I second.
Discussion?
All in favor?
Is there a discussion or not?
I'm waiting.
Oh, okay.
Again, if we have-
I'd like to speak first to 11A, knowing that I presented that. This proposal is simply to direct the Natural Resources Commission to develop a plan for us and report it to us in June. I don't see any implication here that we need legal counsel for this. If we need legal counsel for the others because of the first reading, I can understand what you're saying about it, because if we do approve those, then they're automatically to second reading. But I don't see any legal implications to 11A.
Well, first of all, if our legal counsel was here, he would tell us, only because I've been doing this for 20 years, he would tell us that once there's a motion to table and it's seconded, there is no discussion. I don't mind discussing with you though, Larry, why. I think, do we have any liability if we have a committee that's going to be in charge of, that isn't even truly a committee, it's just that would be the people that would be creating or maintaining our, whatever we do there? Is that something?
The scope of the recommendation that I'm putting forward, if you read the charge, is to direct them, working with various portions of the communities, to come up with a plan. They are not to implement anything. They're to come up with a recommended plan for we as the council to review, consider, modify, approve, or reject. That's the scope of the responsibility.
I think it's more just that it's new business and it's first time coming up. So I'm in favor of tabling anything that doesn't have to be done until legal counsel's here.
Okay, any further discussion?
Yes, I'd like to get a roll call on each one of the resolutions then.
All right, let's have a roll call by name.
There was again, if our legal counsel was here, he'd tell us there was a motion to table all 4 items that was first and seconded, and that's it. Usually you don't even vote on it, but there was not a motion to table each one individually.
I believe under the rules, and if we're operating under Robert's Rules of Order, if there's an objection to table, it can be voiced, and then a vote is necessary. But
Well,
whatever way you want to do it, I don't care.
Alderman Ludwigson, you decided to talk about it, which you didn't have to do. You could have just
I gave him
pointed
the
out.
courtesy of telling him, that's all.
If you want to do them one at a time, I don't have a problem with that. It just seems like this is a perfect example of, we could get clarification if we had legal counsel here.
That's terrible. That's a terrible thing to say.
No,
We have no
I think it's
idea,
a valid thing to say.
What you're saying, but let's move on. I'll accept it. Let's move on. So, what are we looking for? A vote? We have a motion? Is that true?
I withdraw my motion, my objection. Just go with what you want to do.
What I want to do?
No, I think a majority of my colleagues want to do that are present.
All right. What does the majority of your colleagues have to say? That we move on and take a vote, or that we move on and let it be tabled, or what is it you want?
My motion was to table those 4 items.
All right? And you
Four
got-
or,
Items 11A, B, C, and D.
All right, you need 2 people, so you had a second.
what about E, F, and G, and H?
Because of the fact that those had to do with budget issues, I thought that those should be discussed this evening. I did not see the necessity or the wisdom of postponing those. But I explained my reasons for the first 4 issues.
All right, if you would repeat which items you want tabled specifically. Again,
11A, B, C, and D.
any objections? I just don't think it needs a roll call. You want to table it? I don't care, that's fine. I'll go with you. We'll table it. You need 2 people to table it, so.
Yeah, I second it. I
Yeah,
feel like this is deja vu all over again, but I second that motion if it's a new motion, if you're asking, Mr. Mayor.
well, I guess what I'm asking is, when you had mentioned that we don't vote on those kind of situations, on tabling, for example, then it's tabled. That's what you said. But you went into a discussion. So now we're discussing it and frankly wasting a lot of time. So let's move on.
Tonight we'll agree on one thing and that's it.
Yeah,
Let's move on.
you far outshine Jimmy Kimmel. He's always picking on Trump. But you have good jokes.
Okay.
So there's 2 people that would like to have it tabled. You use the prerogative of my office to say it's tabled. Let's move on. What's next?
I'm sorry, I believe we voted on that? Or did we?
I don't think we need a vote.
Okay. Item 11E is ordinance amending Title I of the City Code, adopting the pay plan, compensation of officers, employee salaries, and pay plan. This is an annual item. It reflects the pay plan for all positions within the city, those that are under collective bargaining, as well as non-collective bargaining employees. And this is first reading.
All right. Any questions on the first reading of that issue? There being none, let's go to the next issue.
Item 11F is the ordinance adopting the fiscal year 2018-2019 budget for the city of Prospect Heights. This follows the 3 budget meetings that we had, where we went through certainly the general fund, the operating fund, operating budget, as well as special funds, be it water, sewer, capital projects. The budget itself is pretty static. We have a request for the addition of 1 public works employee. As referenced earlier, we're also transferring some money from the general fund and also the solid waste fund to the capital projects fund to do street work and other items this year. Basically, basically that's the budget before you that the council's reviewed at the prior 3 meetings.
And this is a first reading?
Yes, sir.
All right. Any discussion regarding what we just talked about?
Yes, Mr. Mayor,
Yes, sir.
I don't have any issue with any of the figures. There's nothing that I would change with the budget with as far as dollar amounts. The only thing I would ask is that since this is a new budget format. And with that new format, Mike has said that we have to change how we do things and how we look at what's budgeted for, and that when we budget for something in the regular administrative or public safety or public works, once it's budgeted, it really should go forward. It's not a matter of discussing, it's a matter of going out, getting your bids and doing it and getting that done. My concern is, though, with the capital programs, I don't know that if Mike would say that that same policy would apply to the capital programs.
Alderman Ludwigson, if I could just take a step back. With what is approved in the budget, I in no means wish to change if you feel items should be brought back for approval prior to them being purchased. I don't.
No, I guess I probably said that wrong. In the past, we've always said, because of of our balances and whatnot, we'd always say, wait until the end to do it. I don't mean that we just go ahead and do everything that's within budget, but it's gonna be a lot less, there's gonna be less monitoring of whether we should do something because of finances, because the money is already there now. It's different than the past where we wanted to make sure certain revenue milestones were achieved before we'd approve something that was already budgeted. Our new philosophy is if we budget for it, we already know that the revenue's there and we're gonna move forward with it. So with the capital programs, because some of those things can change, we might not do the same roads necessarily that are in here, in this list. It might be different roads, but we're still gonna do roads. Is there, I would just like, there's two items that I would like to make sure that are maybe either just changed how they're worded or that we put some caveat to it. But the Willow Road reconstruction, we have $75,000 to purchase land. And I just don't want that to be thought of as, now we have to go ahead and facilitate doing this transaction to buy this land when we're not 100% sure if the project's gonna happen.
Again, I agree wholeheartedly with you. My comment that I made was more related to the capital projects, and my concern was that if the council felt that there was some urgency in having these projects done during the year, that we should look to have them done sooner rather than wait till the end of the year and then they don't get completed or paid within that year. If the council feels strongly, is willing to move ahead with the capital projects, I'm just saying maybe we should consider looking at them a little earlier in the budget year to start moving forward with.
And if I could also add, there's a few other breaks on the system. There's a $10,000 spending limit. Otherwise, it comes back to council, and that's a key break. So, I mean, certainly we're not going to be going out making these purchases or contracts or such. As for the, certainly for the Willow Road project too, that would have to come back first to come to the council with a intergovernmental agreement or a letter of intent or something that would tie the city to the partnership with MWRD and Cook County Department of Transportation. So we've budgeted that for, I think, planning purposes. Yes. But in no way does that mean that that's an authorization to go out and do that. There's steps that we would have to come back to the council.
So then what you're saying is you don't see any item in here in these budget capital improvement items as being direction to move to further them, even if that doesn't mean bring them to council, but just any action furthering them until you receive direction to move it forward.
Correct.
Correct.
In fact, the streets is probably a good example because that's the one we would like to move quickly on, just to get in line with bidding. There's some preliminary work. And what we would propose is that we come back to, we certainly have the street index where it's rated all the streets, but there's also some finishing work to do. And we'll ask Public Works and the engineering department to look at streets and what makes sense as far as geographically too. We don't want to be jumping all over town for the basis of doing one street one year and another street next year. at that point, probably within the first 3 years of a capital plan, in most circumstances, it's kind of a marginal difference whether that street should be done in 2018 or 2019. But if we come and look at it geographically, there may be savings rather than setting up and running all over north, south, east, west side of the town, that we do it in blocks. So before that goes out, our city engineer will craft a bid for which streets and what work, whether it's resurfacing, curb and gutter work, things like that. We'll come back to you with approval for that to go out. And then the other factor that we don't have control of is how the bids come back. And those are related to the capacity of the pavers, whether it's a buyer's market or seller's market, the price of oil. It's possible that we may come back, if the bids are very good, we may come back and say, well, we'd like to add a couple other streets. Or on the other side of it, we might have to take a couple streets out. But at any rate, what I want to stress to you is what was presented as a plan. There's certainly more work to come back to council.
But you did say something, not to belabor this, but you did say something that is part of my fear. That the engineer's gonna come back with plans on doing it, maybe optimizing it, which I'm all for. But I don't want it to come back to us as an optimized plan for approval for we need to have discussion about that, hey, guys, we need to get moving on this, our next workshop meeting, let's discuss this about optimizing it. We'll have Perez here, and he'll kind of explain to us, here's what we're gonna do, and we'll say, okay, go ahead and do that, versus him just putting it together and bringing it to us.
Oh, no, well, he will put something together, because you need a product to work from. Otherwise, all 5 of you will have different ideas of how to approach it. So he will come back with a recommendation based on the analysis of streets, based on the physical location, the geography, what makes sense from that standpoint. And that will be at least for what we go out to bid for. So we will come back with a plan.
Or what he'll engineer for.
Right.
I just don't want him to show up with engineered documents saying, here's our bid, and all of a sudden Rob Roy's left out, they're not gonna do Country Club Lane like they, was planned or should have been or whatever.
Right.
It's just a bid document that doesn't include something that we thought.
No, you will have a chance to review his recommendation, what would be the substance of the bid document.
And then the only other item then is, I'd like to take this Lake Claire drainage improvement project. To me, it is just a drainage project and should be part of just our overall drainage, budget, or it should just be generic in what it says. I don't think, to me, this is kind of pegging it to something specific that we're gonna do. I'd like it to be just that it's a drainage improvement category within our CIP, and that we're gonna spend $35,000 for engineering, and then instead of having the 660 listed or the 705 listed in 1920 for that specific project, that we take that 705 and divide it by 1, 2, 3, 4 years, and put that amount into each one, so we spread it out over time, because I'm not so sure that that's the project that we should do. To me, that's kind of how that we got to where we're at with things, that there's an idea that that's a consensus, and we kind of move forward with it, and all of a sudden it ended up on the budget as its own category of project to be done. So I would like to see that, and maybe we have to wait till the next meeting, till everybody's here, before we approve it, but I would like to see that it's just generic to drainage improvement. And instead of showing that 705, let's spread it out over 4 years, because none of that impacts this year. And if next year when we're doing our budget, we say we want to pull 1 year forward because we're going to do 400,000 worth of work instead of 200,000, we can do that. Does that make sense, Joe?
Oh, it does make sense.
Okay.
Because also, to go back, it's a year-to-year plan, and it's a snapshot. And next year, there might be other capital needs. We're always shifting priorities. So we can make that change.
Okay, thank you.
I mean, there's priorities within a category, such as drainage or roads, but then the top of the food chain, there's that prioritization. Are we better doing roads or drainage? So, and that shifts every year.
Or some smaller amount of both.
Exactly.
All right, we had it exactly. What else?
I just wanted to get clarification, Pat, on this. Really, what you want to do with this? Do you want to spread the budget over the 5 years?
Well, I guess what I'm saying is we spent $50,000 for what we call the Burke study that happened, I think it was in 2010, after the last major, really big flood.
Right.
They identified 4 or 5 areas that were of major concern, that were regional.
Okay.
And, you know, some of those areas were $1 million, and we always said, whoa, we can't just do that.
Yeah.
So now I see us approaching $1 million project, and it's kind of like this one just popped up, that it was the one to do. We might go to our engineer and say, hey, look at that Burke study, spend a few hours, what it's gonna cost us, tell us what it would cost to kind of like do what we did with the road project. Prioritize these for what we're gonna get the biggest bang per household, per dollar spent.
Right.
You know, I mean, if there's an area that we can do that's $200,000 and it's gonna fix 28 houses versus doing an area that's 700 that fixes 2 houses, I mean, I think we want to, as quickly as possible, fix as many as we can.
So bottom line is, you're just really asking for a multi-year plan for that particular
For this to be
functional
generic.
area.
Yeah, to be generic and specific.
Prioritize within that.
Right, each year we can
Which
get,
is, which needs it the what area needs it the most, what's the second, like we've done with the other things.
correct. Like the road, you know, how we
Okay.
prioritize
Right,
those.
right, yeah,
Right.
which is the way we should be doing
Right.
it.
All right, anyone else?
If I could, Mayor,
Yes, sir.
it was brought to my attention that for all the times that we've gone through the budget document here, that there is a number that is missing. It is account number 01-140-3515. Vehicle seizure fee is the line item. The amount is $60,000. Just for the second reading of the budget, I'd like to add that number in and increase the revenue in the general fund by $60,000.
Seems
I think we
logical.
have any objection to
Anyone
that?
have a problem with that?
Nope.
No, not at all.
I think it's 66.
Thank you.
All right, Joe?
Thank you. That's first reading of that item, which brings us to item G, ordinance establishing water rates for 2018, 2019, and this is also related to the adoption of the budget. This is first reading tonight.
Questions, comments? Anyone?
This again is according to plan that we've approved, okay.
It is my hope that we would bring this to you a little earlier next year. It took us a little while this year to go back and find some of the history related to the calculations. As much as possible, we'd like to have those water rates released earlier so people could at least plan for it.
And just for information, I think the water rates, as I recall, it's a combination of factors that are reviewed. The distribution costs, the purchase costs of water, if there are any capital projects or related to water, and I believe also the debt service. Mike, that's basically, it's those 4 items. I think.
Yes, it is. They'll be the same 4 items each and every year. We'll look at the same factors.
And that's first reading. Item 11H is a ordinance approving the fiscal year 17-18 budget amendment. And this is first reading as well.
Once
I have a
again,
question.
questions?
Yeah.
Sure.
Yes.
I recognize, Mike, with this fiscal year, that is 17 and 18, you're picking up with what was already in progress.
Correct.
Going forward to 18 and 19 and beyond, as we go through the year and you give us reports, is there a way that you're going to be reporting to us as the budget is a plan, and the plan changes, and we get variances because of whatever the reasons are? Are we still going to lose the base point of where we approve the budget, and we don't know where we are when it comes to 19 and 20?
It is my hope going forward that the budget you approve come May 1st is the budget or will be the plan for the entire fiscal year. Through the monthly reports that you receive from finance, if we see there is an issue, whether it be on the revenue side or the expenditure side, it is our intent to bring that to your attention as early as possible. Please understand that the budget in total is the number that we're working with.
Right.
Sorry, please.
I just
go ahead.
wanted to, in terms of reporting, are we going to be able to see, in terms of reporting, by just looking at a report, let's say a particular line item or project, any way you want to look at it. If we approve for the budget, when the budget itself was approved, if we approved $10,000 for that project, and for whatever reason, we had to add during the course of the year, let's say another $5,000.
Okay.
So will we see that as we look ahead to 19 and 20, or will we now see a budget for that project of $15,000? I want to be able to see what we started off with and whatever variances occurred during the course of the year as we plan for the following year.
It is my intent not to change that budget
Wonderful.
at all.
Good.
I will say there are three things that I separated related to those three operating transfers, which I asked to have the budget amended by. In all three of those cases, it varies from municipality to municipality in terms of if you actually have to budget for an operating transfer. I have listed them here and included them as a part of the amended budget because I don't want somebody to question it down the road in the future and then have to go back and address it again. If we amend the budget, the council approves it, it's just one less thing to deal with.
So then it would be reported
Yes.
as part of the, as part of the operating budget.
Well,
not-
in this case, Alderman, these three are related to the 17-18 budget.
Right. No, I understand that. I'm not concerned about that.
Okay.
It's 18 and 19, and then going beyond.
I hope that there will not be any changes
Okay.
that will have to be brought.
You're inheriting what we were doing in the middle. You can't change that in the middle.
Correct.
I recognize that.
I just want you to have an understanding of where you're starting
Okay.
from and where we hope to end
Okay.
at.
Anyone else?
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, quick
Yes,
question
sir.
for Mike. We went to a budget office. What's the actual term of how we do our budget? Is it a budget officer?
Yes, you have a budget officer.
And that we can only do things that are plus or minus 10% of what our budget items are, correct? Without there being, having to or to amend our budget?
Well, I think technically, within each fund, the budget total that you're adopting is the figure that you're working with, period. You have the ability to work within that total amongst departments, but I believe if in fact you want to increase from the budget that you're approving, let's say from the general fund, that I would have to bring an amendment back to you to allow you to spend that.
So that's my question. What is the hierarchy? Is it general fund or is it administrative, public safety, public works?
No, from what I've seen, it's from a fund basis.
So we could spend more in roads this year coming up than what we list and less in another category because the CIP is all one fund.
Correct.
Okay.
And I would go one step further. I would hope we would get to the point if, let's just say an emergency arose and we needed to spend an additional $20,000 in public works, that at that point in time, we would come back to the council and say, we do have this emergency expenditure, and this is how we plan to offset that $20,000 that's there. If I feel that there is $20,000 that would be available, and Joe agrees with that, or Joe approves that in his role as an administrator, we wouldn't have to do anything further. Sometimes we may say, if we're going to approve this, we're going to eliminate X. And thereby, by taking that action, it's already done, and you don't have to worry about that we're gonna overspend that. I look at it as my job, it is my job to bring to you on both the revenue and the expense side, those accounts where I see there's going to be a problem during the year. And in order to solve that problem, that is something we discuss together.
Thank you.
Okay.
Okay, very good. Joe, go ahead.
The next item is discussion of workshop topics. And we have 12A is discussion of staggered municipal elections and the council memo. 12B is discussion of commercial truck parking regulations update. And then C is identified as home rule discussion.
All right, any comments on those, that grouping, one by one, or adding anything?
Mayor?
Yes, sir.
I just want to make a quick announcement under item B, update and discussion of the commercial truck parking regulations, that the public hearing for that item will be heard on Wednesday, April 25th, at the regular PZBA meeting here in the council chambers at 7 p.m. All the information of the proposed ordinance is on the city website, has been on the city website, and has been mailed out. So citizens who are interested in that item will be up for public hearing on Wednesday, April 25th. Not Thursday, we had a scheduling conflict, but it has been properly noticed.
All right. Good job. Thank you. What was the contract?
What time, 7?
To make sure we had a quorum in my schedule.
Okay, because people are kind of used to it being on Thursday. All right, we'll publicize it. Peter, you'll put it in the e-news several times?
It's on the website, it's in the e-news. We've gotten as much information out as possible.
All right, repeat it till the day comes.
Absolutely.
Thank you. Joe?
Any other items for discussion in this area?
It's just the staggered elections. I know that in the memo, he talked about even and odd numbers, and I fully understand that. I just don't know if that's because that's statute, or is that just because it's the easiest way to do it? Do you know if he said?
I spoke with him this afternoon, and he referenced the statute.
He referenced it in his
Yeah.
memo, but he didn't say that, because the question that's asked is very short. It's like 5 words. I mean, it's like, shall we stagger elections or something like that.
Yeah, well,
It doesn't make any sense.
It was
but-
my understanding in conversation with him, with Kevin this afternoon, that follows the system. There is actually a system that determines which wards would be 4 years or 2, how they'd be staggered. Then the next question I had for him, that will, when he comes back, what if you retitled the wards?
Right.
So, but there's more evaluation from him that we can follow up on. And I'll make him aware of this too, because another alderman had asked about this as well, so.
But that staggering is just to implement this. Once you get
Right.
beyond the initial
Right.
rotation, it's 4 years, it's 4 years,
Right.
it's 4 years. Yeah, that's not the way it's gonna be forever.
Right,
It's
and
just
the
to get
obvious
it going.
question is which ward becomes a 4-year ward or a 2-year ward or so. And his reading
Only for the
of,
first term, because after that.
right.
Right, they're all
Right.
4 years.
Yeah, after that, it's the same, but it's that, the
initial start.
starting gate issue.
Yeah.
But I'll follow up with him about the question, because I understood that there's a community of interest between wards by proximity, that there might be some value to the city if we could break that, so.
Okay.
Yes, it did.
Okay, so, okay.
So we're deferring that till the next
Correct. Yeah, that's
meeting
what,
or workshop?
that,
Probably should go to the workshop, so we have time to talk about it. Presumably, it'd be less business in a workshop and more time for these issues.
Okay,
Everybody happy with that?
so for the next workshop.
Yes. All right, can we move on then?
we do have the building safety proclamation.
All right.
Okay. So this is the International Code Council Building Safety Proclamation for Building Safety Month, which is May of 2018. Whereas our city of Prospect Heights is committed to recognizing our growth and strength depends on the safety and economic value of the homes, building, and infrastructure that serve our citizens both in everyday life and in times of natural disaster. And whereas our confidence in the structural integrity of these buildings that make up our community is achieved through the devotion of vigilant guardians, building safety and fire prevention officials, architects, engineers, builders, tradespeople, design professionals, laborers, and others in the construction industry who work year-round to ensure the safe construction of buildings. And whereas these guardians are dedicated members of the International Code Council, a U.S.-based organization that brings together local, state, and federal officials that are experts in the built environment to create and implement the highest quality codes to protect us in the buildings where we live, learn, work, worship, and play. And whereas our nation benefits economically and technologically from using the international codes that are developed by a national voluntary consensus codes and standards developing organization, our government is able to avoid the high cost and complexity of developing and maintaining these codes, which are the most widely adopted building safety and fire prevention codes in the nation. These modern building codes include safeguards to protect the public from natural disasters such as hurricanes, snowstorms, tornadoes, wildland fires, floods, and earthquakes. And whereas Building Safety Month is sponsored by the International Code Council to remind the public about the critical role of our community's largest unknown guardians of public safety, our local code officials, who assure us of the safe, efficient, and livable buildings that are essential to keep America great. And whereas building codes save lives, the theme for Building Safety Month 2018 encourages all Americans to raise awareness of the importance of building safe and resilient construction, fire prevention, disaster mitigation, and new technologies in the construction industry. Building Safety Month 2018 encourages appropriate steps everyone can take to ensure that the places where we live, learn, work, worship, and play are safe, and recognizes that countless lives have been saved due to the implementation of safety codes by local and state agencies. And whereas each year, in observance of Building Safety Months, Americans are asked to consider the commitment to improve building safety and economic investment at home and in the community, and to acknowledge the essential service provided to all of us by local and state building departments, fire prevention bureaus, and federal agencies in protecting lives and property. Now, therefore, Nicholas J. Helmer, Mayor of the City of Prospect Heights, does hereby proclaim the month of May 2018 as Building Safety Month. Accordingly, he encourages our citizens to join with their communities in participation in Building Safety Month activities.
Great, thank you.
Can I get a picture of you signing it for
Yeah,
Derek?
that should be fine, thank you.
Mr. Mayor, on item 12 still, about the topics for discussions, as Joe had said, that the streets and drainage, those two projects there are very dependent upon the season. And since we're still early in this year, can we get Walt Hamilton to probably do that analysis to say what roads should be done and have that, and maybe the same thing with the, something on the drainage that we could have like on the next workshop so that we could, at that point, maybe approve something for him to go forward with, because it's gonna be close as far as getting things done this year.
Elward, thank you. All right, we can move on to warrants for the meantime.
Okay, warrants, total expenses for this period, amount of $142,249.06. March 30th, 2018 payroll posting, $142,271.92. March 2018 Illinois Municipal Retirement Fund of $26,541.89. Viva Police Retirement Health Savings of $194.06, and total warrants in the amount of $311,256.93.
Motion to approve the warrants as presented.
So move.
Second.
We have a motion, we have a second. Any discussion? There being none, we'll take a roll call.
Alderman Rosenthal.
Aye.
Alderman Ludwigson.
Aye.
Alderman Dolick.
Aye.
Motion passes 3-0. Joe, is there anything you want to add?
No, sir.
Okay. So after the warrants, we have resident comments on non-agenda matters. Do we have that here? Is there someone there that wants to present something? No. There is no executive session. Article on executive session items, if required, that is none. And a motion to it.
Were we gonna have an update on the disposition of land? I mean, is there, I know we received a memo on that, is there gonna be something?
Dan, what's your progress report on that?
Pending final discussion with legal, a memo will be forthcoming, and it's hoped to be this week so we can have a discussion at the next city council meeting and executive session.
So that's being worked on, and we should have it imminently and many days before the next session arrives. Great, thank you. Hope that satisfies. Motion to adjourn, please.
So move.
Second, please. We
Second.
have a motion, we have a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Amen. Thank you for